Canine Detection Collaborative, a detection dog training trio with Stacy Barnett.
Hi.
Robin Grubel.
Hey there.
And Crystal Wing.
What's up?
With humor and a big dose of theory, our trio talks practical training advice and features interviews with top trainers and scientists. It's Canine Detection Collaborative.
Hi, this is Stacy Barnett with Canine Detection Collaborative, and I am here with Crystal Wing.
Hello.
And a fabulous, wonderful guest that we're so excited to have on with us, Bobbie Lyons.
Hello.
Nice to have you here, Bobbie.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Yeah, this is so exciting having you on because canine conditioning it's so important. I mean, we're a lot of our listeners have working dogs or sport dogs, and they could be doing a lot of different sports, or maybe they're doing detection, or maybe they're doing nose work or bite sports or whatever. And obviously there's really a whole lot that really the dog has to kind of go through in terms of physically, and we can't underscore fitness enough. And I know a lot of us who are instructors, we may see dogs, we're like, oh, that dog could search a whole lot better if they were just a little bit more fit. So I think this is definitely something that we want to talk about. And we had a recent guest that talked about handler fitness. Now we're talking about
nice
fitness. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Tying it all together. Take care of ourselves, take care of our dogs.
Like a bow. So to kind of get us started, Bobbie, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, about your company, kind of maybe how you started into all this? I'm really curious.
How I started, everybody always wants to know that. I went down a weird path trying to make the dog that I had, who had some structural challenges in agility. I went down this path trying to find a way to help him be more comfortable and to do the sport as long as we could. And what I found along the way is that dogs don't really know where their back feet are. They know how to use them as effectively as they could. And they rely very heavily on their front because that's where the heaviest part of their body is. The head and the chest are the heaviest parts. All is in the front. So I started with some things like, getting your dog on the ball and some of those types of things. And then I interviewed and shadowed a lot of orthopedists so that I could kind of figure out how all of the pieces go together. And then I started doing different exercises with dogs, with my own dogs, and I saw these amazing benefits right off the bat with the 4 dogs that I had. And then I started offering free fitness classes because I didn't know, if dogs would do all of these types of things like that. Back then it was like the balls were round, and I was like, I don't even know if dog will get on a ball, in a room full of dogs. Like,
this is pre-peanut.
Let's just try it out and see what happens.
Yeah.
And then, of course, everything has changed for the better because we got FitPaws equipment and other equipment where the peanuts are longer. So it encourages better posture and all that stuff in the dogs. But I probably specialize the most in creating exercises specifically for movements that are required by the dog. So if I'm doing a class, say, on jumping for agility, then I'm going to work the whole dog, but I'm also going to very specialize into those exercises that help the dog lift the front of their body up and then push from behind. Most people don't realize that half of the battle of jumping is lifting the front. It's not just about rear end strength. So that's kind of what I specialize in the most, is working with people one-on-one, as well as, obviously I have online classes and in making of the CFC or the CCFT program and the CSCC program.
Alphabet soup.
Right.
And we will link all of this in the show notes, and then also
yes.
in the social media post too, because we need to get people connected with Bobbie. It's amazing. I got to go to the seminar. I had to miss the first day. Oh, it was terrible. It was at Pure Unit Farms, and it was the structure day, which is the day I was so excited about. I'm glad I didn't go because we had some kids that had meltdowns, and I'm glad I was there for them at school, but still, but getting to go Saturday and Sunday, I mean, I knew that I asked a million questions, and I probably melted your brain a little, getting tired of all the questions.
Love questions. I love questions. It helps me be better at what I'm doing and about explaining what I do.
Oh, same for me. I feel the same way. but everything you taught was just so mind bending, and just the whole progression and how everything had one step to the next. It's just like with all of our training, all of our behaviors.
Yep.
I will say one thing that I'm hung up on, that, and this is maybe hopefully not just a me thing, but feel like the more that I learn, almost sometimes the more paralyzed I get, because I want to do it right. Because before, like what you said, like with Quinn, I had a bucket and I had him, perched on a bucket, and I had a round ball and I had him like doing like circus tricks, and now I'm like, oh, wait, but I should have done this. And I should have had the straight back, and I should have, and I recognize a lot of that is to maximize the efficiency of the exercise.
Yep.
And that's where your eyes become so important. So I guess my little thing, I figure if I may not be the only one out there that starts to get a little paralyzed the more you learn. It's just do it. It's okay.
I'm on the other end of the spectrum because I'm paralyzed because I don't know how to start.
Right.
So we're just all paralyzed.
I think also that's where those private lessons come in, right?
Yes.
Is having somebody show you what you should be doing. And then I have a fair amount of people that do private lessons, either in person or online via Zoom. And they do it for a period of time. And then now they're like, okay, now I know what I'm looking for. And now I know what the foundation behaviors are. Now I think I can apply this behavior to that exercise or whatever. And then they're able to run with it a little bit better. And usually they come back around after a period of time. They're like, okay, now I want to know more.
Yeah.
Like, this is where we left off. Now, here's where I am today. How do I learn more, and how do I dive a little bit deeper? And for some of those people, it's really just also that fitness is changing over time, because we're learning more, not because it's like this magic thing that changes. It's just that we're learning more about how to support the dogs. Yeah. I see a lot out there, and it drives me a little bit crazy, is people always assuming that the dog is injured, meaning, on certain groups online or in Facebook or whatever, they're like, oh, your dog must be injured. Go take it to the orthopedist and, spend thousands of dollars on tests to get it looked at. And I'm not saying that I'm against that, but I'm like, let's get the dog to use their body a little bit different and see if that solves the problem, because their problem could be structural, which nothing in a vet's office is going to fix structure, right? And I'm not going to fix structure either. I'm just going to help the dog use what they have a little bit better. So my big takeaway is that if any symptoms or anything that they see gets worse, that's where I stop. And they do have to run off to the vet's office to get tested. And there's certain situations where I might see a dog where obviously I'm not going to use fitness at all. Like if they have an active limp, if the dog is in a lot of pain, those are kind of stopping points for fitness. Yeah. But if the dog has a tight muscle or is not striding long enough in conformation, for instance, or not jumping well onto, logs or whatever they're doing for their job, if they're not doing, then I'm going to work with fitness and I'm going to teach them about their body. And then I'm going to teach them how I'm going to break down that skill into tiny pieces. And I'm going to build up the strengths for each piece of that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So it's not like I'm going to teach them to jump. I'm going to teach them how to use their body to jump.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I got to witness you do that with the different handlers and dogs. And it was so cool to watch. And I love how you said, I don't know if it's before we were chatting or when we've been chatting now, that it really depends on the dog and their current level of fitness. And then I think this before we actually started recording. So I'll kind of say what you also said. I love how you talked about how you mentioned that it's not only just the dog, but also the handler.
Yep.
So do you want to kind of mention that again so they know?
So a lot of times the exercises that I choose have to do with a variety of things. They could have to do with the dog's level of fitness. It could have to do with the owner's ability to train the exercise that I want. I might go towards that exercise a different way because of a handler handicap, for instance. I might choose different exercises because we have a short dog and a tall handler and a sensitive dog who doesn't like to be leaned over or towered over.
Right.
The way they're doing that exercise is different. And maybe that taller person has bad knees. So they can't get on the floor on their knees or they don't want to. So I'm going to find different ways to make that handler and that dog successful and move the dog forward. So I might choose completely different exercises for the same problem, but I'm still always at the center of that is, how am I going to benefit the dog? But what do I need to change in the environment to make that happen?
That makes a ton of sense. Because I'm interviewing you, I get to ask about my own what I want. I'm going to be very selfish here.
That's okay.
I have a dog that she's just started agility and everything. She's touch sensitive, so she doesn't like certain manipulation. So, I've seen a lot of different, exercises and everything, but it always seems to involve lifting a paw or a lot of touch and that kind of thing. Like, are there options for dogs that just don't want to be handled like that? She thinks it's inappropriate, by the way.
Well, a lot of dogs think it's inappropriate to be touched while working. If they think they're working, no touching.
Yeah.
Like 100%.
Like, she loves a cuddle, but she doesn't like to be inspected.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't like to be inspected.
So oftentimes what I do with those dogs is I teach them to offer the behavior.
Okay.
So I just find another way. First of all, for fitness, I don't really pick up paws.
Okay.
We do that because the dog should be able to give it to me if I ask for it.
Okay.
Because there's a couple of things about that. So in rehab, so not fitness, we're going to go to the rehab side. On the rehab side, the dog might not physically know the behavior to lift their paw, and they might not be able to because of whatever's going on with them, or because and for whatever reason they can't do it on their own. So they're going to lift the paw because they need to lift the paw to shift the weight a certain way, right?
Gotcha.
In fitness, I want the dog to be in charge of the movement, because here's the thing, and this is something that people don't think about, is you have a dog standing on 2 canine fit bones and you want to give a paw. There's a couple of things that have to happen. The dog has to think, how do I shift my weight on this thing so that I can lift that paw?
Mm-hmm.
But if you just swipe it out from underneath them, then it puts their body in panic mode. And I don't want panic with fitness. I want them to engage the muscles, find their stability point, and then lift that paw.
Gotcha.
And that's why you have to listen to dogs. If they can only lift the paw, a half an inch, they're telling you something. I don't know. Yeah. 3 legs on this equipment. So in that situation, I might change to stable environment or stable equipment. Sorry. I might change to just something else that makes them more stable, and then build them back into that instability.
Gotcha.
So I think it's unfair in a lot of ways just to like swipe legs out from underneath them without them being able to process that information. And I lose some of the benefit. Does that make sense?
It does. It does.
Yeah, I don't want the dog to be in kind of fight or flight mode. I want them to be in charge of, oh, okay, I can do this. Here it is, right? Yeah. And so weight shifting, I don't do. In rehab, they do a lot of like opposition reflex where you have to push against them. They push back. I prefer to do weight shifting with position of head, position of the handler, and asking for paws. So whether it's a rear paw or a front paw, I'm going to ask for it. I'm not going to just wipe it out from underneath them.
Yeah.
I do weight shifting by walking around the dogs, because they have to. Most dogs will turn to watch you, and as they turn their giant head, they're going to way side to side.
Yeah. And their head weighs a lot.
And their head does weigh a lot, no matter.
Have you seen Powder's head? She's got a pin head. So I don't know.
But when they move their neck and their head, that is what drives that weight shifting, right? So, so it's really easy. Sometimes I have a couple golden retrievers that just the handler walks around them. Golden retriever stares at the wall ahead, and it's just like, I'm not moving my head.
It's like a proofing exercise.
I'm going to fall off.
You can't fool me. I'm not going to look at you.
And so we do tend to, sometimes we might touch the hair on the outside of their hip to get them to turn around and be like, something just me. But again, we wouldn't do that to a dog that doesn't like to be touched.
Right,
so
right.
I try to take all of those things into consideration. So going back to your original question is what I choose depends on the dog. It depends on the human. It depends on what is the goal of the exercise.
Yep.
And what what can we teach them? And what is the owner willing to teach them to help them use their body better?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So like you can lure targeting as, all day long, but it's
Yeah.
definitely not as effective as toes, feet, done.
Yes.
Mhm.
And what age do you think that it's best to look at the dogs, like their posture, their structure, their muscle tone to create the best plan? Like when would you have that opportunity?
It's a really good question because I do start working with puppies at about 12 weeks. I want them to
Okay.
have about 4 weeks with their owners before they come in. But the early stuff that I work on with puppies is all of the foundation behaviors: down stands, sit stands, targeting, all of the nose targeting, chin rest, bridge hold, front feet, rear feet, all feet, side feet, all of those. And I can keep them busy for a good year on that stuff. But I do like to start early at that 12 to 16 week range in teaching them how to learn. I am a KPA faculty member, but that doesn't mean that I make everybody use a clicker or anything like that. I use whatever method they're using. So I don't lock people in. The only thing that I want is if we're training something that is specific, like your feet have to stop here, they have to use a marker signal. So I usually will train them you have to mark the behavior so the dog absolutely knows what we're asking. And then you can reward it however you want. But I think there's a lot of misconceptions, especially right now in the, positive reinforcement versus all their avenues right now is all crazy.
Yeah.
But
Just
I
a
would
little
say,
bit.
yeah, just a little bit. I would say 85% of my clients that walk through my door personally are balance trainers, and they do because I don't shame them for anything that they use.
Yeah.
I just let them in the door and we do fitness.
That's what it's about. It's about the dog.
It's about the dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I use clicker training for what I do because it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I do. Right. And I'm
Yep.
not saying that I don't believe in I'm not going to say I don't believe in any other methods. I'm not going to say that I'm going to put anybody in a position where they feel uncomfortable. So I've always looked at it as I can't help that dog unless they come in the door. And there's people in my circle, we'll say, that definitely have super high opinions about those things. And I just think that people all just need to stand back and let everybody do their job.
Yeah.
And everybody can choose what works for them.
I
And
feel that.
And we're here to try to help our dogs do their job better, whether it's nose work or SAR or detection. And that's what it's
Exactly.
about. I was thinking with the puppies, I know in the class we talked about it's not just a tuck sit, but it's also a rock back sit. And there's difference in why you teach the different things. And in detection, a lot of us do sit stare foundation with our baby puppies. And we kind of inadvertently build in kind of a sloppy sit in our work because we don't have to think about we're just trying to get the behavior that we want for the recognition of the odor or whatever it may be. How do you balance that to be thoughtful about not creating so many sloppy sits? If can you help me with that? I know how to word it right.
Great. Yeah. Great question.
I have questions first.
Yeah.
One question would be, is there a reason why you can't train it in a stand and add the sit later?
Yes. So it's the train final response. And so we absolutely have to have a very consistent position that goes with that behavior.
Okay.
And a stand is one of the hardest to do because the criteria is harder to hold for a stand. Like some people want it down. I taught my dog it down. And now I've kind of found the cons of that like we're in a field. I can't see him. So he's down and I can't see. And a lot of times there's not enough space for them to lay down.
Sure.
So sit tends to be kind of the go-to.
And if you don't train the sit and you train something else, making the sit be reliable in the long term is going to be harder if you don't start there.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
All right. And this is going to be out where you can't necessarily have props or of any kind to inspire a good sit.
Correct. I mean, you can in the beginning, but you really don't want to have that because then it becomes dependent on the prop that they're sitting and it's not the actual odor or the object that they're...
Right. Yeah. I totally get that.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to say is that you have to practice proper sits outside of that behavior and then it will transfer because here's the thing. What you practice is what you get. And you are what we want to do with fitness is we want to get that neurological pathway established for the behavior and the movement that we want. And what you're kind of saying is that because you are rewarding so many sloppy sits, that's what you're getting.
Right.
And I totally see that.
Yeah.
So what you need to do outside of that is practice good sits.
Okay.
And duration sits. So like that might be starting with, you need to sit on that stool while I put your food together.
Okay.
Or maybe it's, well, I walk to here and back, because it's a really young puppy. But the real answer is that they need core strength. They need strength in their hip flexors. They need strength in their abdominal muscles to actually sit square, to actually sit correctly. And they won't develop that at a very young age. They can develop it over time. Like I have a puppy who, like out of the gate, he sat really well. He can't maintain it for any length of time. It's just structurally, he sits well.
Yeah.
Not because I had to teach him that, but now, and he's 6.5 months old right now, and he will kind of, I see him, doing that sloppy sit, and I don't do anything about it. If I'm asking for a sit, I want it to be square. But if he does it on his own time, I don't worry about it because I slouch on my own time.
Okay.
Like we all slouch. We're all not sitting perfectly, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's shoulders go back.
I know, like all of a sudden I was like, all right.
I'm like, well, no, I'm picturing I'm coming in here and Powder's always in my chair, right? I get up, she gets in and she sits like that slouchy sit, like her legs are like kicked out and she's like got a little poochy belly kind of deal. It's really kind of funny. It's kind of cute.
Well, a lot of dogs learn how to sit sloppily also because they're on a slippery crate pan. So they learn to sit by leaning against the side of the crate. Or the back of a chair, or the side of the couch, or whatever. Dogs that are on slippery floors predominantly will have a sloppy sit. It's just the nature of what it is. And so if you are not practicing a square sit, then they don't magically know that's what they're supposed to do.
I think she's just a goober, but yeah.
Right.
Yep.
How early can you actually start teaching the proper mechanics, would you say?
I would say 16 weeks. It's really low repetition. Like this is literally about repetition over the long haul. This is the journey, not the sprint, right?
Right.
So like with Bonus, my own puppy, I will practice, like one or two, like can you come up and sit square? And then I'll toss a cookie off. And it's just random. Like I'll do it before he eats. And some of it is about, can you actually think when I have food in my hand? I can't think when you have a bowl in your hand. It's so weird because I often have food in a bowl. It's usually not in my hand though. In all honesty, it's on the floor. But it is interesting that those two things don't align at all. But yeah, I think the biggest problem is the repetition. And the reason that the CCFT program took the stance of a puppy is a puppy until it's 18 months old and you can't do this and you can't do that. And it kind of made everybody want to like put their dog in a glass house and never do anything, wrap them in bubble wrap and hope for the best. And the problem with that is that they still need to be a dog. They need to run and jump and do things. They don't need to be asked to take that jump 20 times.
Yeah.
Right. You don't need to be asked to do a ton of repetition. I'll put 5 cookies in my hand and I'll work on downs. Bonus, actually, he's 6.5 months old. He knows what down means. So far, the only thing that I get a perfect folding back down for is I blow on him. So I don't actually have that verbal cue. And it's really cute because he throws his head back. But I was trying really hard to get him to keep his feet still. And I did it previously with Flurry. And once they understand the down cue, I would lower the down and blow on them and they would move away from me.
Oh my gosh, I'd have a bloody nose with some of my puppies. It's like I could see like
there's some dogs that will bite you in the nose if you blow on them. So
I thought it was adorable. My friend in Ohio, Sarah, she did that with her giant Malinois, and big old monkey is his name. And he would end up being a normal down, where there's a fold back or, Sphinx, whichever. But then she would just do a little like blow motion where she was just standing there and he would just fall over. So it looked like she's would blow him over.
That's cute.
And then it would be completely relaxed on his side. And she used that for vet care and everything else. And what I love about this too, is that the canine conditioning for me also plays into a lot of the trick training, which is a lot of relationship building. And then it also goes into a lot of the vet care as well. So, I mean, everything just seems like I think for some people, maybe they think that I don't have the time for that. And so sometimes we can go, well, it's important to make the time for the conditioning aspect so we can prevent injuries. We can also see if there are injuries. There's a lot of questions about that.
Actually, it just kind of triggered a question in terms of like, let's say someone's like, people might be thinking like, oh gosh, I don't have time to like do conditioning like 7 days a week. But now that, but what's interesting is that you also my mind went to my own conditioning. I'm working with a personal trainer who we just hosted a couple episodes ago. And I'm finding that just personally, physically, by doing the strength training just a few days a week, I'm making big differences. Is it kind of the same way with dogs? Like, is it possible to make a big impact on just like, the 3 days a week was kind of like what I do with my weight days for.
Yep. I generally recommend that everybody does exercises with the dog 3 days a week. A minimum of 3 days a week. They can do a maximum of 5 days a week if you like have all the time in the world. But I really try to get 3 days a week, and I don't want those days to be together if possible. Like Monday, Wednesday, or
no, I get it. I did a weight day yesterday. I'm supposed to.
Yeah, because muscles need to recover.
Yep.
But consistent work 3 days a week, and I do have students that can only do 2 days a week because they're involved in 5 different sports or whatever. And they see benefits even with 2 days a week, but it is the consistency that matters. And it's also the changing of the exercises. So a lot of people do the same exercises all the time and they're just going through the motions, and they're doing the same exercises, not to pick on anybody exactly, but just because it's easy for them and it's easy for the dog already knows them. They don't have to think about it. Right. In doing that,
it's just like, that's why Liz gave me a different workout routine.
Right. Wow. So you go to the gym and you do the same thing every time. Then your body will have adapted to those exercises, and you're just then going through the motions and not building more muscle memory. I don't really like the word muscle memory exactly, because muscles don't actually have memory, but you're not building that neurological pathway for the movement. It's kind of like, I would say, if you have any experience with functional patterns for people, fitness is very much like that. It's expose the body to the movement, then expose them to the pieces that strengthen that movement, and then it gets better.
So for people that are like, they're like, oh wow, I could do it 3 days a week. Like, how long are those sessions? Like, how long do those sessions seem to like optimal? I mean, do they have to dedicate like a big long, I'm just kind of trying to get people to like, oh yeah, I could do that.
It depends on the dogs. Like so many of my clients have, 5 dogs or more than 5 dogs, so it depends on how you're devoting your time. But a good workout for most dogs is anywhere from 12 minutes to about 25 minutes.
Okay.
And then that doesn't take into consideration things like regular walks or going swimming. All of that stuff would be outside of that. And some of my clients choose to do, like, if they're doing cavalettis, for instance, they choose to do that like on sunny days. Not as part of their regular workout. So we talk about, when you are going to add cavalettis in, then maybe we should, decrease these things over here, a couple exercises, so that your dog has energy for the cavalettis. Because I find in the wintertime, getting people to do cavalettis is tricky, even if it's what they love, because they don't have enough room in their house. Especially if it's like a Malinois, for instance.
Well, and even cavalettis, if people don't know about cavalettis too, I used it to help. The class that I was doing was a search and rescue class, and they wanted to get better at loose leash walking, but they have a lot of dogs that were just wanting to pull and go through. And so by introducing cavalettis, it took them from 100 miles an hour to 50 miles an hour, which then helped us get to the point we could do loose lead walking.
Yep.
So these are all exercises that can help with other behaviors too. So it's interesting when you start thinking about how you can combine everything. And I think for myself, because it's just that time management thing, like we were kind of talking about. And so if I can start showing myself, and then it becomes more rewarding. And when you said the multiple dogs, having the 3 dogs now, exercising them 3 times a week is doable, because then I also kind of rotate which days each dog is doing things. I was curious, in your 25 minutes, would you say that includes your warm up and cool down? And could you maybe give some examples of why or what warm ups and cool downs you suggest? Because that one's really important, and I don't think people know it.
For fitness, they just need to be moving around. So you don't have to do anything specific for a warm up. If you're doing a lot of twisting motions, I would make sure that there's some twisting motions in your warm up. But generally, the way I warm up dogs in the evening, because sometimes my dogs get fitness at 9:00 at night.
Oh, that's when mine happens. Absolutely, 10 o'clock at night.
My own fitness happens late.
I will make them put away laundry with me. I'll put them outside to potty, and then I will make them go from room to room to room all around the house. Whatever I'm doing, they're doing. And I just make them come with me.
I love that suggestion. I've been using it ever since you told me that at the seminar. I've been using it. You're like, tether them too if you have to, and so I do it with me. And so they just walk with me as a contact heel. And we do all my little chores before the end of the day. We scoop the yard, we sweep the floor, we vacuum.
I could not vacuum with drama though.
Yeah. Well, that took some time. Sweeping with Checkmate. I still don't have sweeping with Checkmate. That broom is too high. It's too much.
Yeah.
It's just too hard.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask a puppy question a long time ago, and we got on the path of things taking time.
Sorry.
No. I love the path. This is how we work. Sorry, Bobbie. We're like,
no, it's going to jump all. I knew it would jump all over.
You have 2 ADHD people interviewing you right now, so
there's no planning. There's just like, let's just do the thing.
Keep up.
Just do it. Robin's our planner, so you're in trouble because the 2 of us are interviewing you. So.
You mentioned the rabbit hole of the puppies and people are bubble wrapping because, and I don't know where that actually came from, but all of a sudden it was, don't let your puppies do all the things, and it was like, whoa. So
no exercise.
I live on the planet of I let the puppy do things to their accord. So if they want to run around and do the thing, I don't make them do it. And if they decide that they're done doing it, then we're done doing it. Is that a fair assessment?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I always use the example when Drama was 8 weeks old, I took him to Montana for a workshop because I was going to Montana. And at the end of the day, it was a beautiful day, and the post had a big field, and we were out there for probably an hour and a half. And he was out there, running around in the field, and he would stop and, chew on a stick. And then he would, chase one of the other dogs. And then he would, like he took a nap in the tunnel, and, and we were just sort of circling and gabbing. Right.
Yeah.
But it wasn't forced exercise. Forced exercise is on leash.
Right.
And you're forcing them to go. But if they have the opportunity to self-regulate, then that's perfect.
Okay. And that's what I've always lived by. So then I was like, The one thing I was curious is I know that some breeders will have young pups like 5 weeks old, and they will go together in like group walks in nature, which is great. But then there's some of the pups that seem like they kind of fall behind and lag behind. And then I guess they feel the pressure to get caught up. Is that ever, or I don't know. I was always curious about that too.
It's tricky. Like I had my puppies outside. I mean, it wasn't a nature walk. It was, I have a pretty big yard, but I had them outside at, I want to say 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
But they all just fell asleep in the yard. I don't think it's fair to take them like on a long walk because they do have to keep up with the pack.
Yeah.
I think that if it's within reason where they can self-regulate, I think that that's fine.
Okay.
And as they get older, obviously they can handle more and you can go farther. But I think that you should, there's no science behind the answer. Okay. But I always look at circles. Can they make it around this circle? When they can make it around that circle, then you can make the circle bigger.
Yeah. So common sense, is that what you're advocating for?
Pretty much, yeah.
What about substrate? That's something you mentioned about the slick floor. Now that I've had 3 dogs that have had bad hips, and they've all been before me, like it,
Right. You didn't cause it.
Right. So I was like, wait, that's starting to sound bad. So do you have anything that you can kind of speak to about the substrate of puppies of any age, or even of all ages, I guess, really?
I mean, I like them to be exposed to every surface. That's my big thing.
Yep.
Okay.
Is exposure to every surface. They should be exposed to slippery floors, shiny floors, carpet, mats, dirt, loose dirt, deep dirt, packed dirt. Every
things.
surface that they could ever be on, they should be exposed to it as early as possible. I always tell my puppy people I want 5 different surfaces a week.
Okay. I like
and
that.
they can kind of rotate around so that they're
5 new ones every week. No,
but not 5 new ones forever. But I basically am like I had my puppies on bubble wrap.
Yeah.
Highly supervised, so they didn't eat it. But they were on bubble wrap. So not only was it a different surface, there was sound involved in that. I had them on things that wobble, things that don't wobble, things they had to go over, things they, had to go under, all the things. You want all the different movements in all of the different ways. So I can't even tell you how many times I've seen a law enforcement dog put on the brakes when the decoy is in my bathroom.
So I guess beyond the socialization aspect, I think we're kind of thinking of in terms of the living aspect, right? If they're a lot of us have like laminate floors, right? And if we have a puppy, I mean, should we be going, crazy putting, mats down?
Hey, it's not crazy.
Yes. Okay, sorry.
My whole kitchen and living room is foam floor.
Right. That's kind of what I mean. Like, should we make like a huge effort to not have a lot of slippery floors in there?
They should have a path that they don't have to be on a slippery floor if they don't want to. And it doesn't have to be like solid. Like, for instance, I have laminate floors that go from one end of my house to the other end of my house, right? And there's like a carpet and then a little bit of laminate and then carpet and then a little bit of laminate and then carpet, right? And part of the reason it's really interesting, before we had carpets down our hallway, what I noticed is my living room is very long. My dogs would come out of one room and they would scoot over to the carpet, go the length as far as they could on the carpet, and then come back over, right?
Yeah.
And that was a long time ago, but I actually noticed they were doing that. They were doing that because they didn't have traction on the laminate floors.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be like solid rugs. Like I have some of those soggy dog.
Those are great.
Rugs that I can just pick up. And I have the big ones that are long. So I have like 3 of them down the hallway and there's little breaks in between. And I don't see them jumping the breaks. I mean, dogs could do that, just so you know.
Yeah.
They could choose to jump over it. But most of them don't. As long as they don't have all 4 feet on the laminate, they will usually just keep trucking to the next mat.
Yeah. And I know something I just thought of with the slick floors. I have concrete, and so whenever I have my mats up, it's not a polished concrete, but it's it's still slick. And it's been fascinating to me to know what conditioning level my dogs are in, and myself, based on how we exercise on the concrete. So I know when Yukon is stronger, when he has his tuck sit, he doesn't slide.
Right.
And when he's not as strong and his core is a little bit weaker, his front feet start sliding out. And it's the same with me. Like when I'm doing planks, my feet start sliding and I'm like, okay, tighten it up.
Oh,
So
I'm on my knees of a plank. I'm not on my feet yet.
Oh, but I think that's something too that I kind of look at to see where their fitness level is.
Yep. Well, and some of that sliding is not down into the down. Some of them push their rear end away.
Yeah.
And some of that has to do with where they're shifting their weight in that sit. Because if they're really heavy on the front and their legs are not straight down, but they're a little angled, they're going to slide.
Gotcha.
But when their legs are straight, and they're more centered in their weight, they're not slide forward or back.
It's the centering of the weight that I find so tricky to teach them. And I feel like for a while, I really thought that Yukon didn't have long enough front legs. because it was always like I couldn't get the centering, and I was either falling forward or sliding back, and I did learn that. And now you make me rethink it. I thought it was because he was getting stronger and was able to kind of pull his core together, but really it was just that he was learning how to actually center himself.
I'm gonna say it was probably a little both.
Oh yeah, both.
If you center yourself, wouldn't that like give you core strength?
When you center yourself, you usually tighten your core.
Yeah.
And so if he's more centered, he's going to tighten his core. So like just if you sit here and you try to sit up straight as though somebody's pulling a string on the top of your head, you automatically tighten your abdominal muscles, right?
Yeah.
Your low back muscles. But when you're slouching, it's just like
right.
But I do see a lot of people though that they put their dog in a sit and they walk away and they're like, he's leaning forward, and I'm like, yep, because you walk away and you're the source of reinforcement. So if you want your dog to sit well, you need to be behind him, not in front of him.
Yeah. Or have a mat for structure or things like that.
Something.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's such a big thing to teach a dog that reinforcement is not always going forward.
Yes. That's so huge. Preach.
Most people always teach the reward. Either I'm going to bring it to you or I'm going to hold it out and you're going to come get it.
Yeah. I love having a bowl behind them with the food in it. And so even that, or I'm going to put the food in the bowl, and I love having the bowl as the placeholder so they know where to expect the reinforcement. And I found that to be such a huge help with conditioning. So then I know, like if I'm trying to get cookies to hip to the right and I have the bowl over to the right, they're naturally going to start wanting to lean that way. I love having that. Yeah.
So like getting a really centered sit, if you put the bowl directly behind them, that should do it.
Okay.
As long as they keep their head forward.
Okay. I'll do that tonight, Yukon. And I do find that I condition more in the winter too. That's something I need to work on, is in the summer, I feel like we're conditioning so much with hiking and cross training that I don't make as concerted effort, because when I'm inside in the winter, that's the conditioning time. So that's another thing I need to work on.
Well, and I would say if you're doing an off-leash hike where they're going to be managing a lot of different surfaces, jumping things, or having to manage all of that, that can replace a workout, but not all of it.
Right. What were you going to say, Stacy?
I wanted to kind of build off of the question about core strength, because I want to kind of shift the conversation, if we can, to some of the detection type of activities that the dogs have to do. And my first thought goes to the use of the diaphragm, right? So to build a lot of the nose time that a dog has to have, and to build some of the stamina for sniffing, you have a lot of activation of the diaphragm that the dog has to do. And I don't know, the answer to this is a pure straight up question, right? Is if you work on some of the core strength, does that help some of the ability to either kind of strengthen the diaphragm or give the dog a little bit more stamina when it comes to using the diaphragm to get a lot of that active sniffing duration?
It's a good question. It's not really something that I've looked at specifically, but I would imagine that so breathing and sniffing is different, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so in order to strengthen the way they are sniffing, it would be a little bit different than just their normal breathing for fitness. And the muscles that they would have to strengthen in that situation, they still need the act of sniffing to strengthen it, right?
Yeah. I was just thinking in terms of like, if they're like, does general core strength help with that? Or there's certain things that you can do to work on those muscles aside from just lots of sniffing? Or I don't know. I was just kind of like,
I mean, I spend a lot of time, I like to teach dogs to breathe out of their nose.
Mm-hmm.
So I do things like, I want you to stand on 2 fit bones, for instance. I use fit bones as an example because they're in front of me. And I'm going to put your chin in my hand, or I'm going to ask for you to do a chin rest. And I want your mouth to be closed, and I want you to breathe. And so in that kind of scenario, I would say that they're tightening their core to stay balanced depending on the position that I have them in. And then I'm asking them to breathe out of their nose, which is not necessarily deep breaths, but it is more challenging than opening their mouth. Yeah. So in that situation, I could see where that might help, but I haven't tested it. So
yeah, because they're not going to be taking deep breaths when
Right.
they're doing kind of active sniffing anyway. It's very rapid. It's,
Right. It's
more
going to be rapid, but not deep. Right.
right.
I wonder if protection sports, what we do is we have like a wedge and we go for runs and hikes and they're holding the wedge with the full grip. And so they can't really breathe out of the sides of their mouth. They have to breathe through their nose. And I wonder if that would be something that could also help, because it's really helped, because when in bite sports, they have to be able to bite with the full grip and still breathe.
Right.
And so that's how I condition that.
A lot of those dogs do still breathe out the side of their mouth, though.
Yeah, they do. And that's where, but once I can teach them that they can actually use their nose, then they can keep that full grip longer without having to readjust to get the air in the side of their mouth. So I teach that with the wedges and hiking and running and conditioning and treadmill work and all of that with holding that wedge.
Yeah.
Well, it's been something that a lot of dogs or a lot of people don't realize that if the dog is jumping really high, like over a meter high jump, for instance, a lot of them take a big breath in before they take that jump. And if they have something in their mouth, like a dumbbell, they can't do it.
So how does that change things?
They don't get as much lift because they're relying on that to get their oomph up over the jump, right? And so then teaching them that they can, like, you literally have to back up jump training as soon as you figure that out, because now the dog has to learn to jump with something in their mouth from the get-go. I mean, some dogs, I'm not going to lie, you can teach them to jump, you can hand them a dumbbell, they'll do it, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
But some dogs really rely on that deep breath right before they're taking a jump, cannot do it.
Fascinating.
Yeah, because they're actually using that I'm just kind of thinking about like horses, actually, right? So when horses are galloping, they actually use the how they move, that actually pulls the air into their lungs by the action of galloping. Is that kind of like what you're talking about when the dogs go to take, if they're using, is it that they're using that kind of motion to pull in air? Is that kind of like what
they are? They're using, well, they're not using the motion necessarily. A lot of them like will take a deep breath right before they take a jump, right? And it's I find it's on dogs that have have a harder time jumping.
Okay.
Often do this, but I've seen it in a few different ones for different reasons. And some of it is just like, for instance, my own dog, I said, you can hold a dumbbell, you can carry it around. I want you to come to heel position and I want you to carry that dumbbell. He told me immediately that heeling was an open mouth behavior.
Yeah, I have that with Radish. She's now doing it. So
do it at first at all. He was like, I have no idea why you're asking me to do this. Now he can do it because I recognized that was a problem. But yeah, some dogs just they really need that breath to get over the jump. So then again, you have to back up your jump training to then be like, okay, now all of our jump training has to be with something in your mouth, because you have to relearn how to do it with something in your mouth.
We did take advantage of that. There was our German Shepherd in the club. He couldn't heel with something in his mouth. And so it was give him his reward. And when we wanted to start going again, it was move to heel position. And so we didn't have a conflict with the out because he couldn't heel with something in his mouth. So he would just drop it. Yeah. So we might have taken advantage of that. He can now. So now he's like, oh yeah, I can heel with my toy in my mouth. I'm like, oh darn.
now we'll never get it back. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we have to be like legit on our outs now, but whatever, it's all good.
Sometimes you have to trick them into doing things. And sometimes your dogs pick up on things that you didn't actually realize they were picking up on.
Oh, for sure. And our reward sequences, I think, there's a lot of things the dogs do naturally. You were like, I love that Radish has a natural tuck sit. I didn't have to teach that. What a gift. But I had to teach her a rock back.
Rock back.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, but that's okay. I feel like that's easier to teach.
It can be. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions. Rock back sit is what you need to gain strength in the rear. But so many people just are sitting and not paying attention to how they're sitting. It's important to have both. I always tell people, if you have two things that could be the same cue, make sure they're different cues.
Yeah.
Because it's just not fair to the dog if you make them redo it. And think about how many times do you redo it that expends the energy that you need for the behavior that you're doing. It is better to teach it and put the behavior on cue than redo and redo and redo, because again, you're expending energy that the dog needs to do the repetition of the exercise that you're looking for. So if the dog tuck sits, say 6 out of 10 times, they expended that energy to do the tuck 6 times. and you're still trying to get your reps of the rock back sit.
Yeah.
And so that's just one of the things that I always tell people is you count every rep, not just the correct ones, not just the pretty ones, not just, the ones that you are excited about, every single rep, no matter what it looks like.
Yes. Such a great point. Thank you for saying that. And I know you've written some really great articles. I think it was with Clean Run, maybe. It's on your website. Yep. And it's about tuck sit and rock back. And there were probably some about stand and down too. I was so into the sit at the time that's the ones I was focusing on.
Yeah. If you go to my site, which is Bobbie Lyons Canine Campus, and you sign up for the freebies vault.
It's ridiculous. You've given so much away.
It's just a ton of information.
A ton.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I go there on the regular. It is such a great resource. I appreciate you so much for providing that for us.
It's just one of those things where we just took all the things that we've already put online in some fashion or another, and we just put it all in one place so that people could find it if they wanted to.
Yeah. I mean, you have to check it out. It's so great.
It'll be updated. My staff changed and we're still working on how everything works.
Yeah. So it's fabulous as is.
That hasn't actually been released in the freebies vault, so keep an eye out for more stuff.
Haha, I like it. There was another question that Robin had that I really liked that she wanted me to ask, and it was about so like some dogs genetically do the tuck sit and all of those, but then other dogs, like in their play, some are thrashers. Like they just want to just thrash back and forth and
powder. Oh my God, I'm gonna need a new rotator cuff after.
And even like Checkmate, he can put his head all the way back onto his back, and he does like a complete like exorcism kind of thing with his head. And I mean, just it's fascinating how flexible he is.
Yeah.
And I've always said, well, if you don't like them thrashing because it hurts your shoulders, then teach them to do more of a jackhammer, where it's that tug, pull back, and they're kind of like bouncing and hopping. But then I was thinking about that for my purposes of saving my body. And she had a great kind of angle on that and said, hey, ask Bobbie about the dog's body on that and which is better for them or not even just better, but just your thoughts on it in general.
So a couple of things. So some of it is about tugging and play mechanics. If the dog is thrashing, you need to let them win. But if you're going to hold on to it through the thrash, your arm needs to be a noodle. So you honestly should not have shoulders that hurt, because your arm should just be going with it like a noodle. And then you should let it go when you're ready to let it go. Like when they're actively trying to take it from you, you let them have it.
And if the dog is comfortable doing it, then it's okay for the dog, right?
They're going to stop as soon as you let go, or reasonably soon after.
That's what they like. They like the thrashing.
Or they're going to stop if it hurts them.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
They don't self-regulate like that. If they find the behavior rewarding, they will keep doing it. It's kind of like saying that if it hurts the dog's shoulders to jump off a 4-foot wall to a concrete patio, that they'll eventually stop doing it. It's not true. They'll just keep doing it.
It's not true. Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah.
So you have to be a little bit careful, but I'll be honest and say that the biggest problem with thrashing is the resistance that you provide. So if your arm is a noodle and it's just sort of going with them, then and you have to train yourself to be a noodle. I don't know how to explain that any differently.
It's great. Yeah.
The dog should do the work when they're tugging, not you. Okay. If you're doing more work than the dog, then you're tugging wrong. And you potentially could hurt your dog's neck.
Okay. Because I know with Quinn, the thing, he would thrash and it hurt because he would thrash so far and so hard. And no matter how noodly I could be, he would go so far that it would extend beyond the length of my arm. And so then I taught him to do kind of the jackhammer, and then he turned that into a bounce so that it'd just be like all four off the floor bouncing.
Yeah, we're not talking normal dogs here. These are not normal dogs. These are
sure. No, I get that.
Yeah.
But going up and down, the head isn't designed to go up and down. It's designed to go side to side. So it can potentially cause a problem.
Okay.
And again, it's the resistance that you're putting on it.
Yeah.
If they're thrashing, like my border collie, is a really hard tugger, but I let go. If it's going to hurt me, I let go. Like the dog I started all this fitness stuff with, I actually stopped tugging with him because he was tugging so hard it was hurting me. But I can honestly say it was hurting me because of me, because I wasn't letting go. I was trying to manage the tug too much, and he needed to manage the tug, not me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. And I come from the protection apprehension side of it. So,
Sure.
Some of that, and you're familiar with that too, with David and, working with decoys and such.
Well, I mean, and it's hard because I think that even in protection sports, they have to win the tug. Like, unless they think they can kick your ass, they're not going to think that they can kick anybody else's.
Right.
So, and that's true in law enforcement and all those things. So they have to win. And I think coming from an agility background, we never let the dogs win because we used our leash. So we weren't going to let go of it.
Ah, right? Interesting.
So the dogs never won. And so back when I was doing it with force, I was like, we just can't tug because you're killing me. Whereas if I would have learned to give him the other end, like a longer leash where I could be a noodle and like give into him a little bit, I could have continued to tug with him. But again, it depends on the dog. But I think by and large, most people don't let the dog win enough, and they don't allow their arm to be a noodle, and they hold with two hands instead of one hand.
Okay.
So one hand is better for the dog because you also can't put as much body into it.
Okay.
And again, if they're thrashing enough, if you let go, oftentimes you'll find that they stop and bring the tug right back to you, which is what you want. You want them to be like, play with me. And then you want them pushing it at you, right? But if you're holding on to it with two hands, sometimes the thrashing happens because you're bending the tug and it's pinching their teeth, and they're thrashing to get you to stop bending it. Some of them.
Yeah, some, right.
So, some things to play with. I mean, some dogs don't care, but
and some like to have like the fuzzy tug with the ball on the end, and they like to thrash it so they can beat themselves with the ball that's on the end.
That's the
and then they like to beat your shins with it. Not that I'm calling out Robin.
That's second best.
Right.
I know she's got bruises all up and down her legs from her puppy right now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, even with my puppy, I switched to a bite suit tug because they want to play with me. If I give them a fluffy tug, they want to play with the tug.
And it's fascinating you said about the agility leash, because I use a 10-foot horse lead. And that's my from point A to point B tool for checkmate. So he can always have that in his mouth. And so I can still have a loose leash and he can thrash and do all of his stuff as we're walking. And then if he bites between my hand and the leash, then I just move longer on the leash. So it's just fascinating that that's not something that's already common in the agility arena.
Well, because mostly I think because we don't give them that much leash.
Yeah.
Well, and the leash is like a legal tug. Like you can put the leash on the dog to leave the arena, and oh, by the way, the dog can tug on it. So it's kind of
immediately. Like that's the way to be able to immediately reward the dog instead of having to walk back. Exactly. I mean, it really depends on the dog. But yeah, I mean, I think in the agility world, the hard part is that there are so many reactive dogs in agility that you don't want the dogs. There actually might be
that much leash.
Having a dog on a leash that's longer than 6 feet.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes, there's probably a rule.
Yeah, it hasn't been my world in a very, very long time. That was back with Charles. That was 10 years ago.
I mean, I think it's tough. Like I said, you have to be able to let go and have the dog come back, and it's just about tug mechanics. If you want the dog to play with you, then you have to have a toy that they don't find more rewarding than playing with you. So like the thrashing around, the fuzzy tug with the ball on the end, it's not that you shouldn't let them have fun, but I always have another toy to trade out to so that I don't get to death.
Yeah.
So if in that case, I'm going to have two toys that are reasonably close to exactly the same thing. So the dog that's thrashing will see, I have a live toy over here. They're willing to drop that one and come to this one versus smacking me and themselves with the ball.
Yeah. I feel like you've done a good job talking about puppies and kind of the dogs in between. What about our seniors?
They need to keep moving.
Okay. What if they don't want to move? Yeah, we've had a lot of questions, I think, kind of off to the side in Messenger and such about senior dogs, and especially in nose work, and they're saying that, they know they have to adjust how the dog searches because they can't get to the high hides anymore and they're not moving as fast, and just, how to help them. Just what do you think can help those people that are struggling with their seniors?
I do a lot of cavalettis and or walking in areas where they have to pick up their feet and use their feet, because the biggest thing with our senior dogs is that we tend to feel sorry for them because they're getting older, and they tend to be more couch potato-y, and we're like, it's okay, you're old, you can stay there. But really what we need to do is keep them moving so that they can keep their muscles healthy. So their endurance for nose work or searching or whatever is part drive and part physical, right? And so if they lose the physical stamina because they're on the couch too much or they just aren't moving, then you have to find ways to get them to move. So like I do a lot of cavalettis and different types of cavalettis, like cavalettis where they're trotting, cavalettis where they're picking up their feet high, because when they pick up their feet high, they're flexing the joints and strengthening them. But they just, you just have to motivate them to get up and do, even if it's a small fitness session, they need to get up off the couch and do some things, and not just fitness. They need to go on walks just like everybody else.
How do you look for signs of fatigue or things that when you know you should stop?
Usually it's about position and posture. So for instance, if the dog was holding a really good standing position and could fold to a down, and you get to rep 4 or 5, and all of a sudden their back feet are wide, or they're now bowing and then down instead of your typical folding down, then those are signs of fatigue. The dog is saying, I can't shift my weight that way anymore.
Yeah.
And so your goal is to stop either when you see it or at the rep right before, so that you're not practicing not using their rear end or whatever you're working at that time.
Okay.
So it's for me, it's always about the piece that you missed at the workshop, which is that whole is evaluating their posture. So if your dog is sitting and they're in a sloppy sit, the very first exercises that I'm going to give you are going to be exercises to help fix that sit by strengthening their abdominal muscles, by strengthening their adductors, by getting them to sit up straighter and not leaning, so that we can now use that sit for other exercises. But if we accepted that the poor sit, that's not the sit that we want for squats and for other exercises. So we need to get their joints to align first before we ask them to elevate their front feet higher, for instance.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, and I see a lot of people doing fitness with their dog's feet in a poor position, or, sit pretty is a big one that's out there a lot of times, where the dog is leaning back and arching their back and their rear feet are super wide.
Yeah.
That's not healthy for their hips, their knees, or their back.
Right.
Anyway. And there's, all that controversy about, is sit pretty okay or not okay? And
long back dogs and square dogs. And I
mean, I know long back, small dogs that can sit pretty until the cows come home because they're balancing on their butt and their tail, and they pop up on their own. They're like, I'm ready. Let's do it. But it really comes down to, again, it goes back to what exercises are appropriate for your dog and how your dog is functioning. And so oftentimes dogs that were just using sit pretty as an example, if they were sitting wide and I put them on a bench, they can't do it because they were counterbalancing and using their feet, wide feet as a base instead of using their core.
Yeah. They didn't have the core strength to do it.
Yep. It's really interesting for people to see that their dog can't do it when they're in a proper sit. So, and I think so many people don't know what the proper positions are for exercises, or they think they're doing the right positions. And so oftentimes I'll have people come in and say, what's your goal today? And say your goal is, I want my dog to jump better. And so we start looking at, does the dog even know where their rear end is? How are they sitting? How are they doing all of these different things? And I have to put them through kind of a series of movements and exercises to determine where is the starting point for that goal. Like there's no canned answer like jumping. We do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, even that, you just rocked my brain because if they need to take a breath and they're not used to holding something. So now I'm like, okay, I'm going to, way to go, Bobbie.
Take a breath and they can't do it with something in their mouth, then.
And one of the things that you rocked my world on in the seminar, so I have 2 more things. One of them was, it hit me hard when you said about the fur changing direction.
Yep.
Oh, you got to share that. Is that okay?
Yes, I would love it would be great if we had a better visual, but A lot of people think their dog's fur has cowlicks, and some dogs do have cowlicks, but oftentimes the change in hair pattern indicates that the fascial layer is tight, or there's a sore muscle underneath, or something like that. And you can find out by palpating right to left, and you're always comparing right to left. You're never comparing one dog to another dog.
Right.
And you're also not squeezing. I think that's the other thing that everybody thinks palpating means like kneading, like dough. and dogs don't like that when their muscles are sore. Don't do that.
Yeah, I don't like it either.
Your flat hand, fingers together, not pointy. You're gonna
like mittens.
You're gonna just kind of move your hand over it, and you're gonna feel, is it hot? Does it feel harder than the other side? But you're not poking in, you're feeling flat palm against their body. And you'll be able to feel whether that muscle is harder, hard is bad,
Yeah.
or softer, or if there's heat. And usually you can find that underneath an odd pattern, especially an odd pattern. If you see a short, like a lab, for instance, short-haired black lab, right? They usually are pretty, their hairs will all go in one direction. You will see hair sticking straight out.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
The hair is being lifted because the fascial layer is tight.
And that's exactly what happened to Radish. And so when you taught me that, and then I saw that she had a spot on her right, and I thought maybe her right hip was getting a little funky, but it was just a tight muscle on her right thigh. It was the craziest thing. And exactly what you just said, I did for her, and found out that, yeah, it was a tight muscle. I was like, oh, that blew my mind. So having that, I guess, trick or hack or whatever to kind of to look at for your dog and just help us be more aware of what we're seeing.
Well, and I think it's harder when you have fluffy dogs. So say you have your long-haired German Shepherd.
Yeah.
That's going to be a little trickier. And it's really about knowing your dog.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it comes down to. Because like Drama is I'll say he's a medium coat border collie. He doesn't have the double coat like an Aussie, but his hair does weird stuff because we go swimming a lot.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes his hair is doing weird stuff because I put him in a crate when he was wet, right?
Yeah.
Usually by a few days later, all of that calms down, and then I can see the odd patterns. Like right now, he has an odd hair pattern on his left side of his body. His hair is sticking up more than usual. So it's something I haven't looked at today because we just swam like 2 days ago. So I was kind of waiting for a couple of days to see if that calms down or not. Because sometimes, honestly, if he has a tight muscle, especially along his spine, if we swim, it goes away.
Huh.
So because he's lengthening through his spine.
Yeah.
And he's non-weight bearing. So
interesting.
Oftentimes swimming will actually fix it.
And they're giving me a hard time right now because they're saying that Checkmate's bringing out his inner Rhodesian ridgeback because his entire, it's the weirdest thing I ever seen, but his entire spine is like a different direction and different color right now. It's the weirdest thing. And so I'm like, huh. So I don't know if it's maybe his coach is really dirty, but when they get all oily and such, but he's going in for his total hip replacement on Monday. And I've noticed that his hip's really hurting and he's moving differently. And the days that he's hurting even worse, it gets wider across the middle of his back, the way that the hair pattern changes.
Because he's using his back muscles instead of his rear end.
Yeah. And it's fascinating. Like it just, and we were laughing. It was like all of a sudden one day, it's like, he's a ridgeback. And then it's like, oh my gosh, know what Bobbie said. And then sure enough, he really started limping on that hip. And it was like, whoa, that emoji, with like the the brain blowing party coming out.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
There's so many things that you can, if you open your eyes and you really watch your dog move, that you can be more aware of. Like I always tell people, take a video of your dog, like just like a 3-minute video of your dog. I always say in their natural habitat.
Yeah.
Like backyard, whatever. But basically a video of them moving around with no other influence.
Yeah.
So not you, no people, no other dogs outside,
Right.
just move around the way they move, and then store it away and keep doing it every couple of months, every 3 months, Because if your dog gets injured or if something else comes up and they ask you, hey, did your dog do that before? You can go back to those videos and go, yeah, actually he did.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. Great advice.
A really good example of that is skipping at speed changes is a sign of a psoas injury.
Yeah.
And it's a sign of a lot of things, but in the sport world, a psoas injury.
Right.
And I had a dog that I got at 5 months old. He's a border collie. He skipped at speed changes every day of his 14 and a half years of life. I could set it up in my yard. He skipped every time, going from a gallop to a trot to a walk. But I had a client that was asked, has your dog always skipped at speed changes? And she didn't know the answer. So when that dog was recovering from a psoas injury, we did not know if the skipping was still a sign of anything because she didn't know whether the dog had done it before.
Yeah.
So
I know something they had me do was do video of checkmate walking on concrete specifically, so that they could actually see the way that the foot was hitting the ground. And that was the advice you just gave was so gold. Yeah. So you could absolutely see flat. You could see how each, and so I've done that exact thing. And that's the way that I've known how he is. So I love that advice so much.
Yep.
Another advice that I got was when you take their harness off or you take their gear off, you're kind of stretching their limbs, and you can kind of see then if there's anything that seems stiff at the end of your exercise every day, or like if you're out in the woods or whatever it may be.
They're not generally going to be stiff at that time. They're going to be stiff after rest.
Okay.
Like almost every time. You're never going to see anything when the muscles are still warm.
Okay.
You're going to see it after rest.
Okay. So when you get home, then do it.
I always tell people, you should be watching very closely. If you have searched for hours, if you have, say you went to a IPO trial or whatever, the first steps out of the crate, you need to be watching those first steps coming out of the crate.
And we always talk about, we don't understand what happened. We were at the field. Everything was fine. They went in their box. We got home. They got out. Now they're limping. What'd they do in their box? It wasn't in the box.
It was before. Yeah.
Yeah. And you just didn't see it.
No, and you most of the time won't see it. And we used to say to people, warm up with certain exercises and then cool down with those exercises in reverse. And the thought process was, if my dog had even extension in the front during the warm up and they weren't even during the cool down, then that indicated a problem. But it actually is untrue, because it's very rare that you're going to find that injury when you're cooling down. It's more often going to be after rest.
That's huge.
Because the muscles are still warm. You're just not going to find it that time. I mean, on a rare occasion, like maybe if they broke a nail or, something like that, and it's not soft tissue, you might find it. But it's really going to be rare, especially if it's soft tissue. It's always going to be after they're cold.
Wow. I have loved chatting with you, Bobbie. I could talk to you for hours. What we always do at the end is we do a little takeaway. And I'd like to let Stacy go first, because that's going to give you a chance to think about what you want people to remember from our conversation. So Stacy, what do you want people to remember?
I think actually what was helpful is just kind of being aware of the things that, you really can do that's going to really affect your dog and your dog's performance. I think a lot of folks are, they want to do canine conditioning, and they're not really quite sure. Maybe that they're feeling like, oh wow, that seems like a lot of work, or that seems like it seems so complicated, and I don't really know what to do. But I think just talking to you and just kind of hearing that, maybe just a few days a week, right, that it can make a really big difference. And I think it's really interesting to think how, all of the things that we do with our dogs can be affected from a performance perspective. I'm seeing a whole lot of parallels actually with some of the stuff that we talked with Liz Joyce with handler fitness,
the human fitness.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, thank you. I really appreciate the conversation with that.
Thanks. Yeah.
So my takeaway, I am so in love with how much you give and how much passion you bring to this. For instance, I was only there for Saturday and Sunday. Do you want to take a guess at how many pages of notes I took?
No idea.
22.
Oh,
22. And you also let me video all the stuff, which was tremendous. So then I can go back and I can watch that. But even with all of that, and then I also took another webinar recently from your academy, from your website. And then I'm on your freebies all the time. So I'm a total Bobbie Lyons fangirl, okay? I'm just professing my love for Bobbie right now. But I'm still looking at, like Radish, she's a little bit taller at the back than she is at the front. And I really don't think that there's any way, with all the stuff you've already given me, like I just want to throw my money at you and have you help me, because I really feel like I'm at that point where I really want you to be able to give me that extra step I need to get started and to kind of help out of that paralysis stage. So I'll be contacting you for that for sure. And it's a great time too, if you want to share your website stuff again for me, so I can kind of get that down and kind of where do I go for that personal, like Zoom and that?
The personal stuff? It's actually on my Pawsitive Performance site, which is PAWSITIVE performance.com. I do have some programs that you can't see right now on Bobbie Lyons Canine Campus because I use Teachable. The coaching is kind of weird on there, so I've elected to have it on the other site, which is, maybe not the best plan, but
it makes sense. It works
people
for
just
you.
email me and they're like, "Do you have this?" I'm like, "Yep, I do." So yeah, probably need to be a better marketer than I actually am. But
you give so much away.
It's not about giving it away so much as I think that canine fitness is such about education that you have to be exposed to it, and you have to be exposed to it over time. Does that make sense?
Oh, for sure.
Talking to me one time, I mean, you definitely got the bug, but you were already doing things before and you were interested in what you could do to help your dog, right? And that's like 90% of fitness is just wanting to help your own dog.
Yeah.
And, I have so many people that say that they don't have time. And I'm obviously a big proponent of training, but I'm not going to, if you do private lessons, I'm not going to come in and say, okay, you have 10 different targeting skills you have to train, and you have to train this and you have to train that in order to do fitness. I'm going to take you from where you are today, and I'm going to build your plan based on what you already have trained, or what you can lure your dog to do or get them to do. And then we're going to build from there. And I might give you one thing to train that I want to use down the road, but I'm not going to send you home with, a ton of things to train. So I think that people have this misconception that they're going to have to go home and train a million things. And a lot of the things they've already trained, and maybe we just need to refine how they're doing something.
Yeah.
Most dogs know a down. Do they know the down the way I want them to? No. Can we trick them to do it? Most of the time.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of getting them. It's, fitness is such about weight shifting. It's just about figuring out the different ways that we need to shift their weight to strengthen the muscles that they need. So I think that's the hardest part about fitness is knowing what to do to strengthen where.
Well, and that's something you said before we started recording that has stuck with me for the last hour, was you said that by being an online coach, you've had a chance to see so many more dogs and become a better observer. And so it's about not only knowing how to do it, but what to look for and to have those expert eyes. And that's invaluable. So it's like I could keep doing it on my own and make some progress and hopefully do the right things. Or I could get the expert to look at it and set me on the right path from the very beginning, and then not have to muddle through everything in the end. So the amount of time and it's all worth it to have your expert observations.
Well, people are really super amazed at what I can see online. Because I think I said this before is I know what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's about, just looking in the right places. And my goal is always to teach you also to know what to look for, right? So it's not just about me seeing it. It's about me teaching you what to see. Or I can say online, and this is one of the things that's been really helpful to people, is I can say online, this is the right position. And they can go back and review that video later and look at it. And we talk about, okay, if this is the right position and you're standing in front of the dog, how do you know it's the right position? Because I'm looking from the side because that's the video, right? Yeah. So I have the good view. You have the front view, right? So what do you need to see? Do you need to see the knees come in? Do you need to see what is it that is your visual piece to know that that's the correct position in that moment with that dog.
Yeah.
And so we talk a lot about, okay, right now you have a good position. What do you see? Then when the position is not as perfect or as good, what do you see then? And what changes when we get to the good position? And sometimes like kind of what I'm picturing in my head is the difference between like a slouched sit, where not slouched in the rear, but slouched where the dog is leaning forward versus really sitting up straight. As soon as they sit up straight, they usually bring their knees in a little bit, their shoulders come back, their back straightens. And what you can usually see is the knee movement.
Yeah.
So you're looking down at them.
And I love when you point that out. It reminds me of like we had Holly Bouchard talk about, she has the idea of you can look through like almost like a camera and you can focus on one spot. And as you start to get more proficient, you can start to kind of zoom out and see more and more. Yep. But we have to learn initially what to focus on. And that's what you provide, is you can see the whole picture. And then we can see the little zoomed in pieces and then kind of keep zooming out. I love that. And I also think it absolutely applies to detection as well, because it's this at any behaviors. I mean, it's all just zooming into the parts you need. So getting better at canine fitness is going to make you better in tune to who your dog is and knowing how they work and how they move. So then you're also going to see that when they're out in the field or they're out in their competitions. Like this all just helps out. It all goes hand in hand.
My clients are able to spot minor injuries a lot quicker because they are in tune with how their body is moving.
Yeah, before it becomes a big issue.
Before it becomes an issue. Yep.
Yeah. And then also just being more in tune to how your dog moves. Well, that's also going to help you see things that maybe you didn't see before when your dog is in odor even. You know, you didn't notice those muscle twitches and you didn't notice because you were so zoomed in. And, oh, I love it. Oh, that was a huge connection for me just now. Thank you.
I usually tell people you're first looking through binoculars.
Uh-huh.
And that's all you're seeing is what's in the lens.
Yeah.
You know, like rear foot targeting, for instance, when I train rear foot targeting, I click when the second front foot leaves the mat. People are like, you're clicking for rear feet being on the mat. I'm like, nope.
Yeah.
I'm clicking when the second front foot leaves the mat, which if the dog goes straight, their rear feet are on the mat.
Yeah. So you're also teaching people how to have progression plans and how to have criteria. And I love you, Bobbie. See?
These are the things we talk about.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah. We're all speaking the same language.
At the end of the day, it's about dog training and it's about being observant. I have always felt that fitness is very much for a healthy dog is very much about training them to do the movement. That's where we're going to get the most benefit, is if they are picking up the limb, they are shifting their weight, they are doing it, not me doing it for them.
One of my best friends, Susan Cleveland, we just talked about that. And she said the gripe that she had with a lot of fitness was she felt like it was just a bunch of cookie luring and the dog never really is aware of their body still. Great. And so, yeah, exactly what you said. I can hear her like giving you a click right now.
It's true. I mean, a lot of people think that it's just, a ton of cookies, like I've even had people tell me, you sure give your dog a lot of cookies when I'm doing a demonstration, right? Uh-huh. Because I'm like, yes, because when Drama was a puppy, I let him roam the room afterwards. And now I don't want him to do that. So I'm either, if I don't have a mat there, I'm going to feed him to stay.
Right.
Because otherwise he's going to go around and visit everybody.
So that's that rehearsal thing you talked about,
It is. He learns to go visit at a very early age. He came up through the entire CCFT program when I was teaching for it has been his whole life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now we're teaching the CSCC, and it's funny because now I've switched to, I don't demonstrate that much exercises. I have the handlers are all working.
Yeah.
Drama never comes out of his crate hardly.
I liked the balance of the seminar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you had enough demonstration and you had enough people doing it and you had, it was such a great balance. I highly recommend if there's ever a chance people can see you live, seminar, anything, like they've got to do it. It's look for your schedule and get out there and get your eyes.
Well, you touched on something, and I always love hearing it, as people always tell me that the passion for what I teach it really shows in how I teach and how I talk about it. And I love that because I just don't think there's that many people in the world that get to do what they love to do every day. And I'm so thankful that what I love brings me to more people who want to do the best thing that they can for their dog.
Yeah. Oof.
That
was a good takeaway, dude. Well, I sure appreciate you spending all this time with us. And Stacy and I are so thankful for you, and Robin as well. She's in the in the background. But thanks again for spending all this time with us. And we'll make sure that we have everything linked on the show notes, the social medias. We will make sure that people know how to get a hold of you, because I will be getting a hold of you as well.
I look forward to it.
Yay! So thanks from all of us at Canine Detection Collaborative, and we will check you next time.
Canine Detection Collaborative! We appreciate the time you spend with us. If you liked this episode, not only should you follow us so you don't miss the next one, but please also rate and review us in your favorite podcast app. For info on collaborating with us, go to k9detectioncollaborative.com. That's K9detectioncollaborative.com, where you can find our socials and pick up our latest monthly freebie. Join us again to talk training in the next episode.